This series is about everyday people and the people they admire, whether that's friends, family, or neighbours. We found regular folks from the Northside of Dublin who were brave enough to go in front of the camera to interview a person they wanted to celebrate. We equipped them with the necessary tools, but the rest is up to them. In the next half an hour, we'll meet three of these people as they delve into the lives of the people they look up to. First up, we have Noel, who has admired his friend Teresa and the work she does in the community for a long time.
My daughter Christine bought this for me for Christmas, and it's basically my life on a blanket. So it has my mum on it, my dad, my husband, my children, my grandchildren, even all my dogs.
I'm recommending Teresa because she's a great community activist.
And there's the new shop. Come on. What do you think of that?
Oh, very nice.
Isn't it lovely?
At least they're getting used to it. There's a lot of shops are just lying around there.
Yeah. So I have two of them now, but what he doesn't know, I'm getting a third one.
She's so selfless. It's unbelievable. And I think that's the sort of thing that I've noticed most over the years that I've gotten to know her.
Ah, you know, come on in.
Teresa.
As you can see, I'm a messer. So there's no poses in it. Everything from masks
I was just
to
noticing
giant
there,
teacups.
I was just noticing there you were talking about the water protest.
Yeah.
I was on that as well with you.
That's
so
right.
Every time there's any kind of problems with protests, you're out there as well. You're among all the fighting for people's rights.
This was to cover their faces who were messing. My dogs, my mum, my dad, my husband, my children, my grandchildren. Very, very precious memories are on it.
I think the drive and the sort of energy that you see coming from her is in what she's doing and the results that she sees coming forward, and possibly the help that she gets both from the business and the ordinary community.
Hi, come on in. This is the kind of stuff we sell, it's all brand new. That's the house that went for prayer when we were raising money for it.
She brings that Samaritan that supposedly should be there. She brings it out in everybody.
How are you?
Ah, same old, same old. Pulling the devil by the tail.
Okay. Okay, we get started, so right away.
Right, okay, off you go.
Okay, I'm in the home of Teresa Kelly, a local community activist. Hello Teresa, how are you?
I'm grand, Noel, thanks.
The first question I want to ask is how you got involved in the community activism.
I was in the post office and there was a couple of young mothers there and they were after borrowing money off a moneylender to buy communion dresses, and the repayments were astronomical. So I came home and I was saying, surely there's a way to help the young people and not put them into debt. So I put a call out, and within a week, shops, boutiques were all sending me communion clothes, communion shoes, tiaras. So that's actually how it started.
What else have you done in the area?
Well, we set up, as I say, the communion shop, and then we discovered the girls didn't want to have nothing to do, so we set up an arts and craft shop. Mm-hmm. And then they had made beautiful stuff, so I decided then Dermot wasn't getting his shop back, so I turned it into a Christmas shop. And that year we raised 8,500 for charity, and that went to Brother Kevin, who feeds the homeless, as you know. It went to the hospice, it went to Inner City Helping Homeless, and then it went to the making of 140 hampers for families in hostels, and we done Santi for 80 families.
But that's the point I'm trying to make, that the way you have inspired people over the many years of activism that you've done in the area, that's what I was talking about, and it's sort of subtly done. I mean, the people just come out of nowhere and seem to want to help. That's what I was talking about.
Oh, they do, they're amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't do anything I do without this community and the people from surrounding.
Can I just say, when you come home, do you ever sit down and ponder what you're doing and what you've done and the success as well, and say, I never even knew I had these entrepreneurial skills? Do you ever think about that about it all?
I come home and think of the door to my house and then I have to get stuck into it.
In the course of what we were talking about, Teresa, and what motivated you, there's nothing in your background of family that sort of, I mean, you must sit down and reflect and say, why the hell am I doing this? And say, well, maybe that's the reason why. Does anything come to the fore in your mind?
No, as I said earlier, Noel, I've been very lucky in my life. Yeah, I've had tragedy. I lost my husband at a young age, but I don't know. I think my parents, I was raised to always give rather than to receive. They were a great influence in my life, and I had an aunt that lived with us, and she was an amazing lady. But I was brought up in a place called Oliver Bond. Mm-hmm. And in there, if you hadn't got it, your next door neighbour gave it to you. So I was reared in a community where everybody helped each other. Mm-hmm. And I suppose this is where it all stems from. Because when I moved out here, I was like a lost sheep. I was the newbie on the block. Mm-hmm. But they all rallied round and they knocked in. So I suppose it's my way of giving back a little thing about how lucky I was. Now don't get me wrong, there was times I hadn't a hate me, especially after Tony died and all. But I was lucky, and people always rallied round.
Do you ever think you'll see a day when you'll say, well, that's it, I've done my bit now?
Every day. Every day. I just say, why do I do this? But then...
Okay, well, you answer that. Why do you do it?
I don't know. I think it's just something... I was very lucky growing up. I had an amazing family. Now, I'm an only child. Mm-hmm. But, yes, I was spoiled and given a lot of things. But I was always taught the meaning of the worth of something. And sometimes I look at my own grandchildren, and to teach them that you can't have everything you want, you have to have a little bit of give and take. And I think that's why I do it, because there's amazing people out there that nobody knows about. Mm-hmm. And we can help so many people if we all come together to do it. It's in everybody to give. But if you don't ask, you won't receive. And as you know, and you've seen it, Noel, I will put up a post, and all of a sudden, every person, I can do this, I can do that. So yes, Edenmore is a phenomenal community. The people in it are phenomenal. And most of the work I do, I couldn't do it without them.
Mm-hmm. To me, you're a subtle inspiration. And that's the reason why I nominated you, because you're a perfect example for any community.
Thank you very much. That's a lovely thing to say. But I'll still kill you for doing this.
In Stardust Park in Coolock, Brendan is interviewing his friend Declan, whom he goes for walks with on a weekly basis.
Declan here, he's a friend of mine, and he's a real inspiration, and he's very well liked in the community, and he's plenty of time for everyone. He's never in a hurry. He's the nicest guy you could meet.
Perfect. I give it the fiver now.
Declan, what has made you such a friendly guy?
I love people. You know, all the different types of people. Shy people, extrovert people, talented people, not so talented people. And the one thing I've learned is that the commonality is that everybody has a talent, I believe.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. Some people are great talkers, some people are great footballers, or whatever it is. And what I love is to meet somebody with a talent that they may not be aware of.
Yeah.
And to try to draw that out in them.
Yeah.
You know, that to me is a I love that, I absolutely love that, and I love to see people blossoming. You know, we say in the drama field, amateur drama that I'm involved in, you meet somebody and they say, well, I couldn't do that, play a part or whatever. And you know, if they're able to do this, you just have to draw that out. And to see them overcoming maybe severe shyness or whatever it is, it's a fantastic feeling for people. For me anyway, to see that in people.
You're a bit of a leader yourself, Declan. Where did you get that from?
I suppose I learned that thing of getting involved. I was in the Scouts in Cork, Boy Scouts. I went through the system. I ended up as a cub leader, and then I went on to ventures and so on. And teamwork to me is a vital thing, you know, to get people working together, because I believe in this thing of synergism. In other words, my ability and your ability, but if we combine them, it's more than the sum of our two abilities.
Yeah.
So you see that in the sporting context, where you might see a team that's considered mediocre, and then they get a different manager or a coach or whatever, and suddenly they're better. Now to me,
seeing that in society, be it a resident association or a drama group or older people's group, working together, if you can get that combination,
Yeah,
you can do great things. And what I mean by great things, they can be simple things. You know, people imagine that you're going to invent something, a new product or something. No, it's just helping people.
Yeah.
It's a great thing.
how would you say influenced you when you were young?
Obviously, my parents, mother and father, were incredible people. As I said, my dad became ill. He worked as a mechanic and he ran a garage, a big garage in Cork. When we were in Cork, there was a big Jewish congregation, and he always maintained that, you know, some people had a wrong impression of Jews. He always spoke so highly of their integrity
Yeah,
and their work ethic. So there's an influence that I would have taken from him, in that you must accept people and don't take the stereotype. Try get in behind it and try learn a bit more about them before making a judgment.
Yeah.
My mother, obviously, she reared us with nothing.
yeah,
There was no state support. I don't know how she did it. So, and we all got an education. We all got a chance in life. So, obviously, mother and father were huge influencers. Scouting was a big influence. So the leaders that were there. I always remember, as a young scout in my teens, the scoutmaster ran a big pork butcher business in Cork, and I was a very squeamish sort of a child, and my mother decided to harden me up a bit.
yeah,
So she asked him to give me a job over Christmas, and I had to go to the post office to get stamps of various things.
yeah,
And I came back and I realised I got the wrong change.
yeah,
There was £10 too much, which was a huge amount of
Yeah.
money. So I went back to the scoutmaster and I said, I got this change, and he said, right, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to go back. He said, excellent. Went back to the teller, and he said, no, the change was right, go away. So I'm now left with this tenner. So the scoutmaster then went back to him and he said, right, what decision are you going to make now? Is that your money? And of course I was delighted. I thought I was going to get a tenner.
yeah,
And I said, no, well, if it's not your money, he said, what are you going to do with it?
yeah,
He said, the post office won't take it back. I'm not taking it. You can't take it. Or can you? And I said, no. So he said, what are you going to do? I said, right. Again, back to the scouts. He said, well, what would you do in that situation? You would try to give it to somebody to help them.
yeah,
So I remember giving it to Vincent de Paul. No, I felt like cutting my throat the prospect of my tenor. But you know, there's a lesson that I learned, that there are people less well off than you are,
yeah,
and that donation, which was huge to me in terms of the benefit to somebody else, would be far greater. So that's another key influencer. When I went to college, I had a lecturer. Part of my course was chemical engineering, but he drilled into us: don't accept the common knowledge that's presented. You know, what's your opinion? Get in behind it. And it's a bit like the argument about media literacy that is so important at the moment, about who's presenting the news, what's their motivation, what's the hidden agenda. You know, not to accept the given because everybody thinks that. You know, there's always another side to it, and that goes for people too, I suppose. When we're judging people, back to my earlier point about the potential of people, you know, you can see it in somebody might be putting up a front who are very aggressive or whatever. But they're not really, you know. They could be very insecure.
yeah, that's true too.
So they're the key influencers, and I suppose reading. My father used to always say that if you read, you're going to learn, but you'll also be your boundaries are going to be pushed. You know, you're not going to have a narrow focus. You're going to learn about things that you'll never come across, experience in real life if you get it from the book.
Declan, you're around for a long time. What are you proud of
Oh,
when you look back?
What am I proud of? I suppose helping people. I suppose that I get a great kick out of that in terms of helping that person to help themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't do it, but I was the conduit perhaps, or the catalyst to help them. But it's great to see a person that you knew as a child and you encouraged them in some small way, or their parents or whatever, and you now see them as adults.
Yeah.
That's a great, I got a great kick out of that. The work that I've been involved in the community in terms of committees and various things. I was on, on boards of management, schools and various things. Again, only from my wife to, she was not allowed by agreement, stayed at home and looked after the family. She took the view that we were both contributing to the community, helping out in an area that perhaps other people couldn't do, maybe.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm proud, I suppose. I'm married, my wife and I married 47 years, and that's been a successful marriage, thank God. She's great. She has a great outlook on life. She's a Tipperary woman, came from a farming background, very practical, very, very kind to people, and I've learned that from her, kindness and without blowing your trumpet. There's a lovely custom in Tipperary that if there's a funeral, people would drop in cakes or whatever. You've come across that. But when she came to Dublin first, she would do that, and people couldn't get over this.
Yeah.
That's a lovely tradition that you're helping out.
Yeah.
Again, it's this thing of helping people in a quiet way without blowing trumpets.
Yeah. That's.
Sometimes we're not aware of the small things in our mind, but they're huge to other people.
Yeah.
So an act of kindness or act of helping, the pat on the back, the encouraging word, meeting somebody for a cup of tea if they're going through a rough patch or whatever. Just to listen to somebody sometimes is a great support. So my wife was brilliant at that. She also has a great sense of humour because, as my brother said, she married me. And in fact, we had 2 children. We lost children. We lost 2 babies. But that was very tough. My wife nearly died. So the fact that we got through that, and then now my daughter is getting married on Friday.
Yeah.
She's a teacher, and my son is an army officer, so he always wanted, to be involved in scouting and outdoor stuff, and he's involved in that now, and he's doing well. So I suppose to see them being good citizens and contributing, they're both in the public sector, that they won't be rich in terms of money, but I suppose they're getting a great kick out of it, like I did. I worked in public service also. So I suppose they're the things that I would be proud of.
We've come to the end of the interview, Declan. Is there anybody that you would like to interview?
Yeah, who would I like to? I'd love to interview somebody who worked in the public service and local government and made a huge contribution in her work, and that's Madeleine Ebbs. Now, she'll probably strangle me if she was listening, but I would love to talk to her and do something similar to this.
I think that's it. Anything else you guys want to say?
I think I smooth enough.
For our next interview, we move to the Northside coast, where Mary will be interviewing her friend Myra about her adventurous life.
My name is Mary Humphreys. and I'm introducing my friend Myra Fogarty. I've known Myra for a number of years, and at the moment she's doing some sea swimming here in Clontarf right through the winter, so I think that's fascinating. But she's also had a very interesting life. She's been very determined and has a pilot's license. She's worked in Ireland as a display artist and organised a conference on women aviation, very interested in history. She just seems to have different occupations and hobbies from anybody else I know, so I'm just interested to find out a little bit more about that. Yeah, Myra, the reason I picked you was, well, just the sea swimming at the moment, but just when I thought then of all the other things you've done, and there's the pilot's license and the sailing. I know you were doing competitive sailing for a long time, and then I just remember your interest in history and your knowledge of history, and then remember you organised a day out in the airport out there in
Weston,
yeah, for
Irish women.
Irish women in aviation.
It was a
That
conference.
was an amazing day. That was an amazing day.
Thank you.
All of those reasons, and just to try and find the threads that make you have lived such a different life to the norm. The norm.
Thank you.
Tell me about the sea swimming that you're doing.
Well, Maria, this is my first year swimming.
Right. Yeah.
I did tons of sailing during the winter months, but
Right,
because
okay.
of the lockdown, I just
Yeah.
took
Right.
a figari and I
Yeah.
came down and I
Yeah.
started swimming. And as
Yeah.
the weeks went on, I got to know loads of the women that were
Yeah.
swimming, and every day is different.
Right.
But we had to swim
Yeah.
before you could walk.
So in your family, swimming was a big thing.
Oh, swimming was the religion. You would be put into a dinghy, and
Yeah.
I had 10
Yeah.
or 8 first, and I was put in
Yeah.
the dinghy, and I
Yeah.
knew I had arrived home.
Oh, really?
And it was just another world. And
So you must have been good at it then from the very beginning, were you?
well, no, I just felt at home on the water,
Okay.
whatever it
So
was.
you weren't afraid.
No, well, no, I'm not saying that. I mean, there were times when I'd be racing and something would happen and
Yeah.
we'd crash into another boat, or, because I sailed big cruisers and I
Yeah.
sailed dinghies,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you had to have your wits about you.
Wow. Yeah.
A few times I did long haul,
Yeah.
but most of what I did was racing.
So you were kind of adventurous. You liked the sailing. Now you must have been encouraged in your family some way. Was it all boys and you were fighting for a place, or
No,
what? No.
my mother
Your
was
mother.
all we. My mother got us behind the wheel of the. Well, she went out and bought us, my sister and myself, 2 Honda 50s.
Wow. And what
And,
age were you then? 3.
No. But I was probably about 15, 16.
Oh, wow. So your mother really encouraged you, the girls.
Oh, absolutely.
And did you, so to be as good as the boys, or to get
Oh,
involved?
there was no
nothing about
discrimination.
No discrimination.
No discrimination.
And nothing about staying at home or minding the house.
No,
or,
absolutely
or giving
not.
them cups of tea or anything.
No,
like that.
absolutely not. And
Okay.
if there was, that didn't go down too well at all.
Were you sailing boats by yourself in dinghies, or were there with other people? or-
Normally, I started with sailing with other people,
Yeah.
and a thing called fireballs, very fast dinghies. And then I went up to, I was teaching,
Yes.
but
really?
I was teaching people to race.
Yes.
I would have thought at the beginning people from the very beginning,
Yeah.
how to sail,
Yeah.
but I quickly moved up.
Yeah.
And I'd be very competitive now.
Oh,
I would
now,
not
so
be a
that's-
gentle, nice person,
So
Mary.
this is you're competitive. So
Oh, really
were you
competitive.
competitive then before
Yeah.
you started the sailing, or did the sailing just kind of bring it out in you, or?
Oh, I think I was always competitive.
So you found something then that you were good at, and you kind of held on to that.
Yes, enough to do
Okay.
it for 40 years.
40 years.
Out in Dublin Bay mostly.
Wow.
And as I said, I did a few long haul.
Yeah.
And I did a fair
And
bit of travelling
then
as well.
when you take then the pilot's license and that, what inspired you to get involved in that?
2 things, because during my school there was 2 teachers. One was a history teacher. She'd
Oh,
walk
yeah.
into the class and my brain would go light up.
Oh,
But the other thing was an English teacher.
yeah.
But all the time was, where were the women in Ireland?
Yeah.
Where were they dancing at the crossroads?
yeah.
And I wanted to discover where all the women were. But in the day-to-day education,
Yeah.
I couldn't find any woman
Yeah.
that had done anything extraordinary. And I think I spent most of my adult life finding all these women.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that's what
Yes.
led me into aviation.
Well, yeah.
Because the first woman in the world,
Yeah.
as it happens, the first woman in the world to design, build and fly an airplane was in Ireland in 1910.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And remember, the Wright brothers flew in 1903.
Okay.
So it's only a few years after
Yes.
that. And the first 3 people to fly Africa in 1927 were 3 Irish women.
Wow.
And that's where the full circle for me.
Yes.
I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just
Yeah.
saying the interpretation of the times for my education is that it's the way it was presented.
It's interesting because you seem to look at things in a different way and pick out things that other people haven't picked out or haven't emphasised in the same way.
Absolutely.
So if there was one person who influenced you mostly in your life, who would you say that would be?
I think my grandfather.
Right.
Now I have to say the history teacher that I had mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Because I'd be daydreaming and she would come into the class and the whole, for me,
That was
fireworks,
most interesting.
fireworks.
Yeah, great.
But my grandfather was quite extraordinary and very generous, very kind, and in a way to a lot of us. He, even now when he's passed and gone and for decades, but when we talk about him, it's love. And even though the next two generations have heard about this man, and but very funny. Very kind.
So did you have a lot of contact with him then when you were younger?
I would have, because he was living in Portmarnock and I was living in Swords, which was a
so you were near
village.
enough.
So we would. And I thought the beach behind, the little beach, tiny beach behind the harbour in Skerries was ours because we were so many of us.
Yes.
And that's where he would just have a big cigar and he would just say, Myra, come on, get into the boat there.
Yes.
And you'd be pushed
very
off and everything
encouraging
else like that. And swimming. And the water, and he would talk to you, literally just talk to you and listen. But he was really fun. It was the fun, it was kindness, and he would just come down.
He was good at getting to your level.
Just down, and just seeing you, really seeing you. And
so he obviously brought out the most in kids, or he encouraged them.
All ages, all ages.
And what's your fondest memory then, or your fondest?
Well, there's fondest memories, but they can be mixed with absolute
they can't be mentioned.
Error, because the first time I went solo, and the instructor got out, and he said, right, and I had to go back down the end of the grass runway. And now I'm on my own, and I'm talking to empty chair. I said to empty chair, if you feel uncomfortable, don't worry, I'll just stop. And before I knew where I was 300 feet up, then 5, and then 8. And then I started, shaking and crying, and I'm going downwind. I was doing a circuit, and then between all of this, I had to make radio calls and just kind of, and just Echo India, Delta Charlie, left downwind and stopped crying, and then coming in. But that was brilliant,
scary.
Amazing.
And did things get easier then after that? Or the first was the worst?
Except when I couldn't find Knock Airport.
Well, that's
have you got visual yet? Not quite yet.
And what happened?
Because I kept
foggy?
looking down, and Knock Airport is very high. It's about 650 feet above sea level. It's actually at the top of a mountain.
And how long were you before you spotted where to go?
I saw a Ryanair plane coming in. It was only about that size, and thank God for that. So I just followed. I came on to finals, and I came in. But there's been moments with sailing too, where there's a narrow line between frightening the shyness out of yourself and giving yourself a thrill, and winning a race, but winning a championship,
winning is a big thing, isn't it?
But also being disqualified for being rude to somebody, so that can be really intimidating.
What lessons would you have learned, or what lessons do you think are very important in life in general?
Keep going.
Keep going.
Determination, keep going. Always have a goal. Always learn. Forget your age and numbers. Keep it going. What is it you want to do next? There has to be something that you want to do next. If you got the pilot's license, now you want to do something else. You learned how to sail, you learned how to race.
No, because you seem to be very good too at leaving something and saying, right, that's done and I'm going on to the next thing, where sometimes people get bogged down in something that they really loved and find it hard to let go of. I suppose the thing about it is then that you, behind all these, or what I've learned from chatting to you, like, first of all, you've got an interest in history, but you were encouraged all the time to just go out and do whatever it was, and as you said, your persistence and dedication, and also talk about taking the road less travelled in a way. You set your own goals. You're really a self-made woman in a way. You picked what you wanted to do and you kept after it. And then when you say things like that keeping going, you know, in the face of something, or having determination and not letting something put you off. So you're a very determined and courageous person.
You're very kind, Mary. You're going to make me cry.
I will.
I don't cry.
How long more do I have to do to make you cry?
No, don't make me cry. But you're very kind. But I've been lucky. I've been very lucky.
Yeah, good.
Very lucky.
Yeah. Okay.
Join us again next week for 3 more interviews that reveal how extraordinary the ordinary people in our lives really are.